Imagine a legendary warrior, a man whose very presence on the field once defined the outcome of the biggest game on earth, currently sitting in the shadows of the open market. He's 37 years old, a future Hall of Famer, and statistically the most dangerous active sack artist in the entire NFL. He is officially a free agent, and he has made one non-negotiable demand. He will only sign with a team that has a legitimate shot at the Lombardi Trophy. The football world is currently paralyzed by a single, burning question. Why isn't this man wearing a jersey yet? And more importantly, why are whispers growing louder that his final, glorious chapter might be written in the city of Philadelphia? Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button if you want the fastest NFL updates on the planet. There is a massive, uncomfortable truth looming over the Eagles' front office right now. It is a detail so jarring that it might force them to make the most controversial signing of the year. This isn't just about adding a veteran. It is about addressing a systemic failure that has left the Eagles' defense completely invisible in the eyes of the league's elite. But before we get into the details of this potential blockbuster deal, you need to know exactly who we are talking about. You might think his best days are behind him, but the numbers suggest something entirely different. Wait until you see the efficiency metrics he produced last season. It will completely change your perspective on his career arc. The clock is officially ticking. Training camp is a matter of days away, and this pass-rushing titan is waiting for the one call that promises a championship run. He spent last year in a situation that can only be described as a disaster, and now he is desperate to flip the script. The football community is buzzing because a high-profile move has been proposed that could solve Philadelphia's biggest defensive dilemma. But the logic behind it is as polarizing as it gets. The player in question is none other than Von Miller. When you look at his resume, it feels like looking at a history book of defensive dominance. He was the second overall pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, and since then, he has compiled a staggering 138. 5 career sacks. That isn't just a number. It is the highest total among all active players in the league. We're talking about 8 Pro Bowl selections, 3 All-Pro nods, and 2 Super Bowl rings, one with the Broncos and one with the Rams. He has the hardware. He has the MVP trophy from Super Bowl 50, and he has the Defensive Rookie of the Year. But here is the statistic that should send chills down any offensive coordinator's spine. He shares the all-time record for sacks in Super Bowl history with 4. 5. This isn't a guy who beats up on bottom-tier teams in September. He is a man who thrives when the pressure is at its absolute peak. So why the doubt? Why is he still a free agent? Many assume he's a shell of himself, limping through his final days. That is a dangerous assumption. In the 2025 season, despite playing for a struggling squad, Miller racked up 9 sacks. 9. But here is the kicker. He did that while playing only 37% of his team's defensive snaps. He was essentially a part-time player who was still more productive than the majority of full-time starters across the league. He added 6 tackles for loss and 19 quarterback pressures in that limited role. Crucially, he stayed healthy. For the first time since 2018, he played every regular season game. He proved that even at 37, he can stay on the field and provide elite, high-impact production as a rotational specialist. He is the ultimate closer for the final 4 minutes of a game. His journey is legendary. For 11 years in Denver, he was the heartbeat of that defense, piling up 110, 5 of his career sacks, and earning 6 consecutive Pro Bowl nods. In his prime, back in 2012, he was an absolute force of nature with 18. 5 sacks, 28 tackles for loss, and 6 forced fumbles. From his championship run in Los Angeles to his tenure in Buffalo, he has played in over 186 games, forced 27 fumbles, and cemented his place on the NFL's All-Decade team for the 2010s. He is, for all intents and purposes, a Hall of Famer waiting for the right opportunity to say goodbye on his own terms. But why Philadelphia? Why would the Eagles, a team known for their calculated roster moves, even consider a veteran of his age? Well, the answer lies in a brutal reality check that the city of Philadelphia is currently facing. Recently, A major analytical outlet released its annual ranking of the best pass rushers compiled through conversations with executives, coaches, and scouts. Philadelphia was completely invisible. Not one, not two, but 0 Eagles players were named in the top 10. They weren't in the honorable mentions. They weren't even in the others receiving votes category. It was a total shutout. For a franchise that prides itself on building from the trenches, a team that views the defensive line as the soul of the organization. This wasn't just a snub, it was a wake-up call. Who's to blame for the sudden lack of defensive respect? Is it the front office, or is it just a transition period for the team? Drop your take in the comments below. The catalyst for this defensive blackout is clear: the departure of Jalen Phillips. When Phillips signed a massive 4-year, $120 million contract with the Carolina Panthers, the largest deal in that team's history, it left a void that the Eagles are still struggling to fill. They simply refused to match that price tag. To their credit, they moved fast. They sent 2 third-round picks to the Minnesota Vikings to acquire Jonathan Greenard, immediately signing him to a 4-year, $98 million extension. It was an aggressive, necessary pivot. But the reality is that while the Eagles have invested heavily in starters like Greenard and the promising Nolan Smith Jr., they lack the alpha presence, the kind of player who forces an offensive coordinator to double-team them on every single down. And here is where the story gets even more fascinating. The most explosive player in their current rotation might actually be coming off the bench. I'm talking about Jal Hunt, a 6 feet 3 inches, 252-pound wrecking ball who has been dubbed the league's best-kept secret. In 2025, Hunt became the first player in franchise history to lead the team in both sacks and interceptions. It is a freakish profile, but it highlights a specific problem. The Eagles have youth, they have depth, and they have structural stability, but they don't have that X-factor veteran who can ruin a game on 3rd and long. This is exactly where Von Miller fits in. Think about the playoff scenarios. When you're staring down a star quarterback in the 4th quarter of a divisional round game, you don't need a guy who can play 60 snaps of mediocre defense. You need a specialist who can come in for 20 high-intensity snaps and flat-out wreck the protection. That is Miller's specialty. He has over 10 sacks in his postseason career. He knows how to win when the season is on the line. But wait until you hear the twist involving one of their biggest division rivals. It's a move that would be pure chaos. There have been reports that Miller realized he made a tactical error last year by choosing the wrong destination. He's looking for a ring, and he has expressed a desire to reunite with coaches he's worked with in the past, specifically looking at systems like the one run by Vic Fangio. The connection is there, the need is there, and the resume is undeniable. But here is the spice. Miller recently sent the internet into a meltdown by posting a photoshopped image of himself in a Dallas Cowboys uniform. It was a troll, a stunt, a piece of digital theater, but it signaled that he is very much aware of the high-stakes rivalries in the NFC East. If he is truly looking for a ring, the narrative is shifting. As many analysts have pointed out, the most logical landing spot isn't Dallas, it's Philadelphia. The move would not only shore up a massive weakness in the pass rush, but would be an absolute masterclass in psychological warfare against a division rival. Of course, we have to keep it 100% real here. There are legitimate concerns. He is 37. He is not the 60 snap, a game monster he was in his 20s. The Eagles roster is already packed with 90 men, and adding a veteran would mean cutting a younger player with potential. And then there is the salary cap, which is always a tightrope walk in the NFL. However, consider the efficiency. 9 sacks on less than 40% of snaps is not luck. It is clinical precision. In the coldest games of January, when one play defines your legacy, having a guy on your sideline who has seen it all, done it all, and won it all is worth more than any salary cap spreadsheet could ever calculate. The question is no longer whether he can help. It's whether the front office has the courage to make a move that flies in the face of conventional rebuilding logic. So, here is the challenge. Would you pull the trigger? If you were the GM, would you sign a 37-year-old legend to chase a ring, or are you sticking with the young guns regardless of the lack of veteran presence? And honestly, do you think being completely ignored in the pass rusher rankings is a fair assessment of where this Eagles defense currently stands. The stage is set, the veteran is waiting, and the season is right around the corner. The Eagles have a choice to make, and it could be the move that defines their entire year. Stay tuned, because this situation is evolving by the hour.